Hey, this is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to share my favorite mechanism in I'm not going to say a new Magic the Gathering set, but a set that came out sometime in the last year or so. We just drafted it for the first time, and that is Kaldheim. This is kind of a Viking-themed set that embraces some old mechanisms, but also some new mechanisms from Magic the Gathering. Some quick mechanisms. I'll go through a few different mechanisms here, and then I'll talk about my favorite one. So one that I saw for the first time in this set, let's see if I can get the camera to focus, is I can't get it to focus, so I'll just read it. This is the Code Spell Cleric. It says, when Code Spell Cleric enters the battlefield, if it was the second spell you cast this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And so there's a whole series of cards like this in the game where if it is the second spell you're casting, or if you cast a second spell that turn, you get a special bonus. In general, I thought this ability was pretty good. I did not find many ways to use it often throughout the game, but it was a nice bonus when I had a turn where I was playing multiple spells. It kind of encouraged me to play smaller cards in my deck, which I didn't really want to do, but I think that it was, for a deck built around that concept, I thought it was pretty interesting. There is the foretell mechanism. This was a nice thematic mechanism. So this one says, this is a card that costs 3 total mana. Target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. So you can play that normal cost and play it. Or you can foretell it, which means that you pay 2 colorless mana to place this card face down on the table. So you're kind of saying, okay, this is the future. I am seeing the future of this card, but my opponent doesn't know what it is. And then sometime in the future, you can play this card. It's just as if it's an instant, just a normal card, as it's written here. But instead of paying this cost, you pay the foretell cost, which for this card is 1 green mana. And so that's a fun, powerful ability to have this hidden card that's face down, that the opponent knows that you have a hidden card, but you can surprise them by by kind of revealing it and playing it in some point in the future. The one downside I would say to this type of mechanism is we found it fairly easy to forget that these cards were there to be played because they were kind of off to the side face down. I don't know if other players have experienced this playing it on the tabletop, but and I'm probably sure the digital versions might remind you of it a little better, but we kind of forgot that they were there at times, even though we had these nice foretell abilities. But that's a skill thing. We should have remembered a little bit better. The set also includes vehicles, which I found their way into many different sets here, but I particularly like this vehicle card because, again, focus isn't really working here, but I liked it because it has 2 cats that come into play and tug the Asika's chariot, which I thought was clever. I won't go too into that because vehicles aren't really a core feature of the set. It's in here. There are vehicles in this set, but snow was a bigger part of this set. So there are snowlands that kind of create a multi-use mana where there are cards like this. This is the Ascendant Spirit, where you can pay any snow mana. Doesn't matter what color that snow mana is. You can pay any snow mana to kind of upgrade this card. And I really like this style of card. I don't know if there are any other cards like this in the set, but basically you pay 2 snow mana to turn this card into a Spirit Warrior. And then, if this card is already a Spirit Warrior, you can then pay 3 mana to make it even stronger. Has this really, and then again, you can do it with 4 snow mana. But I really like this leveling up feel to a card. It requires a lot of text on the card, but it has this really cool feel of it. I'd love to see this style of card in other games, non-Magic games as well. However, my favorite ability, finally, I'll get to my favorite new mechanism in this set, and that is Boast. Again, focus isn't really working here, so I'll just read it out to you. This is the Axguard Braggart. You can use Boast abilities if this creature attacked this turn, and if only this creature attacked this turn. So it's basically if you're sending a creature out to battle alone, they gain the ability to boast about it. And this boast ability says that you can pay 2 mana to untap this card and then put a +1/+1 counter on it. So you're essentially giving it vigilance and putting a counter on it if you have that mana to spend. I thought this ability was really, really cool. It was very easy to remember to use. It made you feel powerful even when you only had 1 creature on the battlefield, and it gave you an interesting decision when you had multiple creatures on the battlefield and decide, okay, do I want to go in with more than 1 creature or just go in with my 1 boast creature? That I thought was a really interesting decision. And I think this can carry over to other games as well. Maybe not necessarily with creatures and attacking and all that sort of mechanisms that are specifically tied to Magic, but on turns where in any game where you might have a weaker turn, you can give players a boost of confidence for those weaker turns, or an interesting decision in those weaker turns, by kind of giving providing a built-in ability where you're essentially saying, if you are about to have a weaker turn, whatever that means in the context of the game that you're working on, if you are about to have a weaker turn, you can do this thing to make that turn stronger. And I really like that. I really like that because there are many games where you have a bunch of strong turns, a bunch of kind of normal turns, and then every now and then you have a weaker turn, sometimes even a dead turn in that game. And I like games that do something like this boast mechanism, where it's kind of saying, okay, sure, you only have one creature to attack with, but here's a way to make this attack more powerful and more important, and feel like you have a more substantial turn despite the low-powered attack. So yeah, I really like the boast ability. That is going to be my favorite mechanism in the Kaldheim set that is not so new anymore. If you remember playing Kaldheim when it came out, I'd love to hear your favorite mechanism in the set, or if you can see how these mechanisms might apply to other games as well. Thanks.